welcome to the Master Your Moment podcast. I am here with Brie Stockwell. She is a creative coach, and today we're going to talk about creativity and mastering our moments with creativity. Hi, Brie. Welcome to the podcast.
Hey, thank you so much. This is so fun. By the way, everyone, this is kind of a little podcast blind date, and I love it.
So, Brie, can you tell me a little bit about yourself? Like, what is a creative coach? I haven't ever heard that kind of term before.
So I call myself a creative coach, but the real description is that I am a certified life coach that specializes in coaching creatives. And what I do is, excuse me, is I help people learn and master the art of sustainable creativity. So anything that they need to have their creative life, their regular and their creative lives balanced together, that's what we do. We talk about time and energy and confidence and anything that they want, and we go I help them make their creative lives feel better and flow more smoothly. And it's really fun.
How did you get to that to become that? What has your journey been?
So I have always been a creative person. I highly identify. I call myself a multi-passionate creative. Because I've always been, needing to do something creative. And
Same.
I
I'm like a hobby junkie. I've got to
yes,
like always be doing
yes, yes.
something and learning a new technique.
Right. So I've had like a quilting phase. I had a scrapbooking. I mean, you name it. I'm still
Mhm.
minorly in my knitting phase. I mean, I just knitted a hat and finished it, but I don't do it very much. Like I know how. Um, but I've played flute forever, so I am a musician, and I'm university trained, so that's kind of where a lot of the passion started. I always wanted to do photography, and I kind of put that on hiatus while I was having children and just doing life. And maybe almost 4.5 years ago, I was like, I have to get into photography big time. So I felt like it was the time for me to do it. And I always thought, I had a camera, but I always thought that I had to do portraits and stuff. I had to photograph people. And
Mhm.
I didn't realize it wasn't gelling with me. So I finally figured out that I wanted to photograph nature. I know this speaks to you.
Yes, it does. It does. I'm a huge nature junkie too. I have to be outside all the time.
Yes, and I not only do I love photographing nature, so I call myself a nature and landscape photographer, but I love especially the desert, and I like photographing dunes and rocks and like bare earth and just like the the some of the interesting parts of because I'm in Texas, I'm in Austin, Texas area, and so I'll between Austin, Texas, and where my mom lives in California, there is a ton of really interesting stuff. Like so much stuff is
Mhm.
kind of amazing. And so I just will wander and you can usually find me like roaming around White Sands National Park or out in Death Valley or pointing my camera down at rocks or and I'll photograph anywhere, but those are my lips. So uh all of that journey, and I I decided to become a life coach because I was in a coaching program and I loved it so much. And I saw all kinds of creatives struggling with self-doubt, struggling with, burnout, overwhelm, just struggling to bring like their dreams to fruition. And I knew that doing the work that I could do would help so many people. And this isn't a brag. However, I did just have a client. She has all the answers, but she emailed me yesterday and she said, I think that you literally are magic because all of these things are happening for me. But I think this is just the power of the mind when we learn to like see our thoughts, to believe new things, then so much so many new things open up to us that we didn't even know were possible, and that has been really fun for me. So I combine all of that, all of my life experience,
Hmm.
including my momming, including my knitting and, quilting and all of the things, to bring me to now. And it's been a really amazing journey. I've learned a lot about myself, and I take all of that and I can apply it to helping my clients, really do the things that they want to do. That's fun.
Yeah. What would you say your process is like when you get a client? How do you work with them?
So I start out by we do what's called a sustainability session, which is right. So we look at all different parts of their lives because we do not create in a vacuum. It's not separate. Our creative world, as much as we like go into a separate world when we create,
Hmm.
that world is not separate from the rest of our lives. And so it's figuring out whether we do it for business to make money, or we do it for pleasure, or maybe a little bit of both. How do we want that to fit into our lives? And so that's what we do. We look at all different parts of their lives and we see where their energy is going, how much, we really hone in on what do they want? How much time do they want more time for their creativity? And it's a customized process because not everyone is the same. However, throughout, I do 4 months of coaching or a year, but I mean, I do it for as long as people need me. But uh, if it's a 4 month, if we work together for 4 months, then I have tools, and really, it all starts with. And it's so interesting because this doesn't really have anything to do with creativity, but it has everything to do with creativity. So, my
Right.
right, I my basic method is to help people see that what they're thinking creates their whole human experience. And it's not what the things that happen to you. It all starts with your mind, and you can create anything with your mind first and turn it into anything that you want. You can make that reality. And um, so the basic premise is whatever we think creates our emotions, which fuel all the things that we do. So it's think, feel, do. And once we learn that, then we immediately can take control of we ta you know what? It's not even control. We have so much power that we can tap into that we didn't know we had before. And so, and there's a few other things that I pull out depending on
Yeah.
individuals, but it's just it's like amazing work, and it's totally life changing. That's why it's called a life coach.
Right. Right.
Right.
What what obstacles or challenges do you think that people have when they're trying to be creative?
Uh a big one is self-doubt. A lot of people will say, I just don't have the confidence to share my work or do that. Or I don't, it's that like, I don't know how, or it's doubting yourself in any way. And one of the things that I really believe is it's okay. It's okay to have that because we actually start everything with courage. We have to start. Sometimes when it's a lot of the things that we do, especially as creatives, are just scary. It just feels scary. It's not going to feel really amazing and comfortable all the time. And especially when we're putting ourselves out there, like we
Hmm.
pour a lot of our hearts and our emotions into our work, whether it's painting, writing, photography, whatever it is, we put a lot of ourselves in it. And then we put it on display for everyone to look at, which feels really like it's very vulnerable. We're in vulnerable
Yeah.
situation. And so there's a lot of self-doubt that comes up, but if we can use the fear and let allow ourselves to have some courage, then we can start to do things and think things that create confidence, and we can put the courage aside because now we have the confidence along the way, which, by the way, takes a lot less energy than always masking fear with courage, because fear takes a lot out of us. And so
Hmm.
if we can overcome the self-doubt a little at a time, it's like it's just super helpful. That's just one of the things, but it is a biggie.
Yeah. Do you think that it's about like a fear of rejection, that you have this self-doubt that like if I put this out there, people are going to reject this and therefore they're going to reject me?
Yeah. Yeah. Absolutely. And part of learning and gaining the confidence is understanding that everyone's going to have their opinion about your work.
Hmm.
And we get to decide who we listen to. Like, whose opinion do we want to consider? And that's part of the power that we have. All of a sudden, other people's opinion don't sway our emotions back and forth. We just go, I'm confident in my work, and whatever you want to think about it, you can. And because I know that I love it. I know it's tricky when you hear people say things that don't sound so nice, but
Yeah.
it if if I can hear people tell me stuff that doesn't sound nice, that sounds really terrible, and not think anything of it, then other people can too. And it's not that I don't care about other people. I care about the energy that I put into my work. And so I do have I actually teach my clients this. So this is actually really fun. So Brene Brown teaches about the Square Squad. Do you know about the Square Squad?
No, I don't think I've heard that before.
Okay. All right.
Tell me.
So Brene Brown has she teaches, I think it's in Dare to Lead, I think. So she takes a 1-inch piece of paper, and on there she can put whatever names she wants, but it's the people whose opinion she cares about.
Hmm.
And it's on only a 1 inch. So you can't put everybody, and you can barely put
Right.
anybody, right? It's
Yeah.
maybe like 4 people or something like that. Maybe you fill it back in front. I don't know. But when you limit yourself to only carrying what a limited amount of trusted individuals think, then everything else just kind of washes by you like a river, like, oh, there it goes. And right. And so then it doesn't like affect you in the same way, because you've already decided whose opinions you care about, and everybody else's, they just get to have their opinions and it doesn't affect you at all. I love this. Thank you, Brene Brown, for thinking of
I
this and sharing it
know.
with the world, right? There are some people who are just super brilliant, and I love collecting like these brilliant little techniques for dealing with this kind of stuff, you know?
Yeah. Yeah. That's really, really good.
Yeah, y'all
Um,
write that down. Get out your
yes, write that down.
start tearing out a 1-inch piece of paper and write your people down.
Do you think that people have like certain misconceptions about creativity?
Yes. I think there's a lot of people who think they're not creative, including me at one point, because I used to just think, oh, I just follow the pattern. I do the quilt, I follow the pattern. I make the recipe, I follow the recipe, right? Like I'm cooking
Hmm.
the food, I follow the recipe, right? I go to university, I play the notes. Oh, that's
Right.
not really that creative. I'm
Because
so
yeah, because I'll feel that way sometimes too, because a lot of the art or creative things that I choose to do is really just finding somebody else's piece and then using that to make my own. And it never looks like theirs, because you put your own touch on it anyway.
Yeah, exactly. That's why I had to convince myself, oh my gosh, I am creative, I do have creativity, and I'm actually creative all the time, whether it is it doesn't matter if I'm creating or not. And we're all creative in different ways. So, you know, this book, Steal Like an Artist.
I don't think I've seen that book before.
Okay.
Uh-uh.
I always have
I
little
think I've heard
like,
the saying though.
yeah, I have show and tell. So this is by Austin Kleon. Um, I love this little book because it's it really is so great. 10 things nobody told you about being creative. But here's what one of the big things that he says, it's steal like an artist. We want to steal. When we are creative, we are stealing things. We're using other people's work as inspiration. Like still again, we don't create in a vacuum. We're
Yeah,
always gathering the information and all our life experiences, any art that we see, anything, we just use it to create. It's when we actually um what's the word I'm looking for? It's plagiarizing. What's the word? I'm looking for the word. Shoot.
I'm not sure.
It's not
Other than
still
like stealing,
yeah,
plagiarizing,
but
yeah,
it's oh no, it's copying.
copying.
Yeah, when we direct
Yeah,
copy or plagiarize, that's definitely a problem, right? Because we're taking somebody's stuff, maybe we're taking tweaking it only a tiny bit and we're passing it off on our as our own. That's not what we want to do, but certainly copying is actually a big part of the creative process. We like a lot of times that's the recipe thing. Oh, I got this recipe. I'm doing exactly what they said. I'm copying it. And now guess what? The next time, maybe I don't even use that. I know the process now. And now I'm going to add these spices and I'm going to combine these things. I'm going to do it this way. And it might not even turn out exactly right, but it's similar. And so this is the stealing where we take little bits of everything and make it into our own, and it doesn't have to be
exactly.
necessarily new. I think that's really
Yeah,
beautiful because that just means anybody can do this stuff. Anybody.
exactly. So, you coach a lot of people that are specifically trying to work on things as far as being a creative or being an artist. What do you think about, creativity as a part of somebody's well-being, and particularly even just a mother needing to have creativity in her life for her own well-being?
Well, I still am that person. And I think no matter what, um, I think no matter what we're doing in life, whether we're momming or, even if we have a full-time job or we're full-time jobbing and we're momming all at the same time, whatever we do, it's important to have something that can just be for us, that helps us recognize who we are as an individual. And like, I love to identify as a mom. I love to identify as a coach, but really all of it is I am Brie. And so when I can take something like my photography, like anything else that I do, especially my photography, because I do that solo now and it's just me and my photography. And it's just beautiful. When we can take that and have that time to just be with our minds and be with ourselves and reconnect with like our souls and who we are, that's really important because I know women especially who have come out on the other end of like all their kids are leaving and they're like, I don't even know who I am. And if we
Mhm.
take the time, right? Like how beautiful is that to how beautiful is it to just doodle. Oh my gosh. Wait, let me tell you about this thing. Okay, so I chatted. So there's this thing here in Austin. And there's this thing here in Austin. It's this huge event in November and it's called the Austin Studio Tour. And I bet lots of cities around the whole world have this kind of stuff. But I went around one Saturday and I ended up talking with this lady and during COVID, she's older, but she needed to she's like, I needed to process. Oh, pause. She does these really beautiful paintings, But she said during COVID, I really needed to process some emotions about all these things that were going on. And so she said, uh, looked up I looked up some different art, and she found neurographic art. And here's why I'm telling you this is because anybody can do this stuff,
Mhm.
right? You can be out in nature, you can be at home, wherever. And she took a pen, and however she was thinking or feeling, she just allowed it to guide her hand on the paper. And then when she was done, then she used those lines she would like connect them in different ways. And then she would paint in between. And she did all of this like beautiful stuff. Um, I have a blog post about it where you can see one of the pictures and I'll send it to you. But
Okay, good. Yeah, yeah.
it was a really beautiful way. It was just something totally different for her. She's like, I didn't know it was an experiment. I didn't know how it was going to turn out. And it allowed her to like process her emotions and kind of take a peek into what was happening for her in her mind. And she said it was really like healthy and healing. And I love that about any kind of art because I think not only does it provide us a way to connect with ourselves, but it can be very meditative and calming. And in
Mhm.
stress, we need that. Like we need that to like decompress because we can't be on all the time.
Yeah, art is can be very therapeutic,
Yes.
and we need things like that in our life for our wellness, for our mental and emotional health, and even physical because you're moving your body when you're doing it too, you're making these
Yes.
motions and even when you're doing your photography, you're walking and noticing things and being present in the moment. And all of those things can be very therapeutic. So yes,
Yes.
absolutely. I think that's why creativity can be really important for our whole wellness
Absolutely.
for sure. Well, how does creativity help us to master our moments, you think?
Oh, that is an interesting question. Um, for me, I think my own creativity, and I have talked a lot about like, I think my own creativity, my creative work has helped me connect with who I am. And so when I am having I think, hang on a second, let me just formulate this on a daily basis. In more moments, I'm able to be actually more present. And by present, I mean able to see what I'm thinking. I'm way more in touch with my emotions now than I ever have been ever. And I really attribute that to my creative work because allowing myself to be creative and express myself mad or just be is eh, has been so healthy for me. And so you talk about the moments, and all of our moments are just made up of these little glimpses. Like if I was to take
Mhm.
a look back at like my day, you know, I could go, oh, that moment, when I was talking with my husband in the kitchen, or that moment when I met, well, I had, um, when I met this musician at a coffee shop, like, and
Yeah.
being able to, being able to still be me in all of them has been life altering. I can't even tell you, like
Yeah.
life altering, right?
It is. It is.
Yeah, and I really do think it's because I've been able to have more times, when I'm still, when I'm when I'm just with myself. It's really, really amazing. So, I was gonna say, I hope that answered your question, but I
Yes,
don't
it
think you have
does.
a set answer of how that
I
needs
don't.
to go.
Answer, no set answer. Um, but I would like to explore more about how would you approach people who are hesitant on believing that they are or can be creative, and how could they go about discovering that for themselves?
if you're hesitant,
Mhm. Like you have kind of that self-doubt, like I can't be creative.
yeah,
That's not
yeah,
in me. I've tried art before. Like I can't do it.
mm,
I mean, that's a tough mindset to be in, isn't it?
yeah. If I mean, you could just not do it. I mean, wouldn't it be so much? So one of the things I talk with my clients about is what are all our options, right? Like,
Mhm.
so one of your options is if you're hesitant, is just not to do it because it feels really safe. And for sure, if it feels really unsafe, like panic attack, I can't share it, then or I can't do it, then don't
Mhm.
wait. It's not the right time for you, right? But if you're hesitant, what would it look like if you took one tiny step forward? Like, what would that look like? And I always just want to go, okay, what would it look like to do that tiny step? Because for sure, sometimes we not just horribilize, but we'd like, worst case scenario, I took this giant, like we picture ourselves taking this giant leap and we really
Mhm.
don't have to do that, right? Like,
Yeah.
so could you just try, could you just try a little at a time and see what happens? So, um, we're going to talk about Creative February, and you probably have other questions,
Mhm.
but I really want to talk about this time that I was hesitant and I used this moment to
Absolutely.
like
Go for it.
so
Yes.
so so I heard about this through a photographer friend of mine. I heard about this thing that this artist in New York was doing. And she and her artist friend, I think her friend was she's a like she creates beautiful jewelry. And
Mhm.
so they were like, we just need an infusion of creativity. They think about it like it's New York and it's February and it's cold and you just need
Yeah.
something, right? And so they just started, they said, let's just do something every day. And over time it became this thing called Creative February. And now and I'm telling you this because I did it. I've done it a few times or a couple of times now, and I'll tell you what I'm going to do. But it's a way to immerse ourselves on purpose in some creative work every single day for even just a few minutes. Now, so this woman's name, this artist's name, her name is Takis Walter. I'll give you her info so you can like link to the stuff.
Yeah.
Um, she's fabulous. She does a tiny painting every day. And then I think she takes some of her art students through Creative February, and I think they've done a whole like exhibitions about it. Okay, but the reason I say this is because I'm a photographer and I've always been hesitant to do to do watercolor. And I love I love watercolor paintings.
Mhm. I do
And
too.
I've right. And I've told myself for so long. I know you guys are all gonna just laugh at me, but we all have these thoughts that just don't make sense. And so and I told myself for so long that I had to learn how to draw before I could do watercolor because that obviously is the process.
Oh yeah. Obviously, that's exactly how they do it.
Obviously. But you can see how me thinking I had to know how to
Mhm.
draw, which I don't think I'm good at that at all, but whatever. Um, and me thinking I had to draw to do watercolor. If I don't think I know how to draw, well, I'm never going to try watercolor, like ever. And so, uh, And so the first year I did something called Enzo circles, which I can tell you about later if you want to. But my second year, my podcast co-host, so I have a podcast also called A Creative Affair. So my co-host, his name is Len, and he lives in Sydney, and he's also like he's an artist and a creative mentor. And he was like, "No, you don't need to do that. Why don't you just try watercolor without the drawing part?" And I was like, like seriously? I was having some minor heart palpitations. I was very hesitant. And he goes, okay, I'll tell you what you do. You go to the art shop, you pick whichever colors you think are really beautiful. You get some really lovely paper that you love. You pick one brush and you come home. And I'm like, oh, picking color sounds amazing. I love color. Right. All of a sudden,
Yeah.
I'm like, oh, I could do that. Okay. So I'm like, okay, first I could do that. So I do that. I bring it home and I'm like, okay, now what do I do with these? Because I'm still stuck. I'm like, oh, wait, I have to be able to draw. And so I was like, okay, if I was going to paint, what would I do? So initially I just said, well, what is all the painting? This is what I'm talking about when I'm saying you dip your toe in the water, because
Hmm.
I didn't just go to create like a painting. I don't know, I guess I have a painting now, but
Yeah.
I'll show you in a minute. So I was like, what do all these colors do? So that's when I took somebody's recipe and I made, I don't even know if I have it here. Sorry, I've got all my little like sheets. Oh, you know what? Hey, hang on a sec. We do show and tell here. Hang on. Oh, 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 oh. Ha. I found it. Okay. I have all my little art things behind me. Okay, so I actually, so I did this.
Yeah. The little swatches and stuff.
Yeah, so
Yep.
I did paint swatches just to see how everything, and how everything would
Shows
shake
up on the
down,
page. Yeah.
so that when I went to go paint, I would go, "Oh, what does it look like?" And this is what I'm talking about, dipping your toe in the water. For sure, this is kind of copy. This is kind of like the copy part, right?
Right.
Right? And so now I'm like, "Okay, I did that. Now how do I want to do?" So I took over like the course of it. This didn't take me one day. I probably did this over a couple of days. So it's totally fine. So in Creative February, that's when I started. I started doing the color swatches. By the way, just to spoil all the fun, I am not a fantastic watercolor artist now. So just in case anyone was
I'm
wondering
not
what.
I'm not either, but I created these like wellness workshops. And
Yeah.
what I did is I incorporated like for my master moment stands for these specific 6 practices that I do for self-care.
Oh, yeah. Let me
And I
hear
have
them.
a membership that goes along with it. And
Wait a
I'll send
minute.
you,
Are you going to tell us what those are?
oh, I
Or
can
have
tell
you
you,
talked
yes.
about it? Have you talked about it on other podcasts and like
Yeah,
this is
like
new for me?
well, a lot of people that follow me probably know these because my like free guide is master your moment with these 6 practices. But um yeah, I mean, you never know who's listening and who
To
it's their first time to
give
hear
me
it.
the TLDR. Yeah,
So
give me the quick and dirty.
it's meditation, observation, monograph, exercise, nurture your mind, and testimony. So some of those may not sound exactly like what the word is, it can be
That's
confusing,
okay. Yeah.
but observation is like, your the visualization aspect of it. Um, and then monograph is really just journaling, but I use monograph in not just like using your words journaling, but it can also be through art or any kind of sort of self-expression, just getting your thoughts out on paper. And
Oh, it's like your signature, like who you are. So taking what's inside you and putting it down somewhere
yes, yeah.
visually.
And
Great.
then the E is exercise, which is obvious. And then N is nurture your mind. So that could just be, just learning anything, but through any method. It could be listening to a podcast, it could be reading a book, it could be watching videos, anything that's going to help you improve and grow in whatever area you want to grow in. And then the T for testimony is really about your affirmations and saying affirmations. So
Yeah.
that's your moment. But the wellness workshop that I had done is I incorporated all those 6 practices into it, except the main focus we would do like a movement activity, and then I would go into an art activity and we'd do watercolor and paint with watercolor, and then we'd have a meditation, and then we would say the affirmations, and then instead of like the visualization aspect, it would be more of like intention setting. How are you going to use this as you go out? And then the nurture your mind was, while I was doing the watercolor, I would talk about a particular topic. So, like, I think
Mm.
one of the last ones I did was on adaptability, and the whole workshop was on adaptability. So, doing movements around adaptability, like listen to different songs and moving your body to the rhythm of that music in different ways because of that. So you're always adapting to music and how you move. And then the watercolor that I painted was a chameleon. And so we talked about what a chameleon is and how it changes and yeah, all of that kind of thing. It was
Do you
really, really cool. Yeah.
do you have to know how to draw to paint a chameleon?
Um,
I'm
I
just
always
kidding.
not really, but like I just kind of look at an outline and do sort of an outline drawing, and then I go in and you do more of the detail work with the colors.
Mine are
But like
probably like
I'm not
impressionist chameleon.
I don't consider myself like a professional artist. I'm not.
Mm.
I just like art, any kind of art.
Yeah, so fun.
But it's not really cool.
Yeah, I love this being able to go, you know what? I am not the pro. I am not like this is just for me. This is just for me to be able to learn stuff. And for sure, like I've taken like over time, I've taken my photography and made it into something, right? Like this is mine. It's one of my favorites. You can't even really see
Mhm.
that, but yeah, so there you go.
Yeah.
Um, but being able to take myself out of my photographic brain and try something else for a month, for sure I could use Creative February to do all kinds of other things. But I think using doing something totally different and getting myself because I can photograph. Like I can go out and it's um sometimes it's second nature. But challenging myself a little bit in a different way,
Yes.
that's what I use this for, you know. So I love that. So my next baby step was I saw someone online creating these like watercolor rainbows and I'm like, "Oh, I want to do that." So a little bit a day I would just do these rainbows.
Yeah. That's really, really awesome.
And you don't have to be able to draw to do
Yeah.
this
No.
because right?
Yeah.
Like you don't have to do that, right? And so then I was like, "Oh, I'll play. I'll
Hmm.
play and layer." Oh wait, maybe I did this other one first. I did a rainbow one,
Yeah. Those are really
right?
cool.
Isn't that fun? And
Yes.
I was like, "Oh, what happens?" I started asking myself, "Okay, now that I did that, how can I baby step forward? What happens now when I get a lot on my brush and press and do one swipe?" Right? And just kind of and doesn't really matter. This isn't even perfect. I don't even care. I was just
Mhm.
playing. What are the color combinations? Here's another one. A bunch of messing
Right.
around. But
Yeah.
the thing is getting out of my own way a little bit at a time, getting over the hesitation, showing myself that with a little courage that it's fine. Like I'm okay. This is okay.
Yeah.
I can do this, right? Just a little at a time. And I love this about this practice is taking a set amount of time and going every single day, I'm going to do something in um, that's creative. And I love the idea of having a theme running through it.
Mhm.
Like Takis does every year, she's like, I'm going to focus on these techniques or use this. I'm going to use this other, uh, different kind of paint or whatever. And I'm going to make, she makes all small ones. I have no idea what she'll do this year. I should message her, right? So,
Yeah. I
right.
know. I
So
think it's
this
a
year,
lot. A lot of it is
no,
to me about sort of experimenting with different things to find what you really enjoy. Like you found really early on that photography was the your source of this creativity, but that doesn't mean that you have to like only ever do photography because it is really important to try to reach out and branch out and dabble in different things so you can kind of have different experiences because that's what how you grow as a person and figure out what you enjoy.
Yeah. And this is what I say too is all art relates to each other. Like I know I grow as a photographer. Haven't quite figured out how that works, but I know I grow as a photographer when I can do this. Here, let's do the when I can do this. Right?
Yes.
Because this even just shows me, oh, I can do things that I didn't think I could,
Hmm.
right? And so this year I'm kind of drawing. Just kind of. I
Awesome.
haven't. Maybe
Awesome.
maybe by the end of February it'll feel better. Okay, but here's what I have. Last summer I bought. So this is what I want to say. You don't have to do painting. You can do anything you want for this, right? The important thing is
Yeah.
you pick a set, you just decide how much time you have to devote to it and then and plan ahead because when you plan ahead, you can be successful. And this is with anything and especially with creativity and especially if you find yourself as a busy person because
Hmm.
when you can set yourself up for success and then follow through, it feels really amazing.
Yeah,
Right?
it
Right.
does. And it builds your
So
confidence when you do that and practice it.
yes. Okay, so this is what I have this year. You can't see it. These are all like little watercolor like
Hmm.
crayons. Okay. I I was in California on a road trip and I'm like, "Oh, there's an art shop. I should go in. I should just go touch all the things." And so, excuse me, I went in, I'm like, "Oh, these little crayons feel really excellent." And so I just picked out again because I knew that I didn't have to buy a set. I could just literally pick out colors I like and
Hmm.
use them. Like you don't have to have a set of anything. You could just draw with one color and that is also fine. You could do anything with one color. You can do a lot. So I picked out a bunch that I like and then I was like, "Oh, what am I going to do for paper?" And I found these tiniest pads of paper.
Oh
They're what
yeah.
a I don't even know what size they are. They're tiny and like 3 inches by 2 inches or something like that. And I'm like,
Hmm.
that's what I'm gonna do. That's what I'm gonna do. I'm just gonna draw and I can like watercolor on them and I'm just gonna do one a day. Whatever happens to come to
Yeah.
me, I'm just doing one a day and it will be some drawing and some painting and I'm just gonna push myself to draw even though I think I'm not a drawer.
Yeah,
You can
I
hear it
love
in my
that.
voice, right?
Oh, but you just have fun with it because, it's not like you have to turn out to be some expert drawer either.
No, and it's really important. Uh when you're being creative, it's really important to experiment because if we are afraid to just try stuff, let me then nothing ever happens. So
Hmm.
when we can just try stuff, that's when the really amazing things, like even though we're like, that's weird. Oh, let me try this. It might, we get ideas from other people, but also we got ideas from ourselves through
Yeah.
experimentation and trying. And when we can just do that, when we can try stuff and experiment, we're like, oh, I like that one part of it. Oh, and then evaluate, right? If you can evaluate what
Hmm.
you're doing and go, oh, I like this part, but all the rest I could just, do without. If you can take that one part and go, now what do I do with it? Now, how do I
Yeah.
do that? Right. And build on it and try other new things, then that is a really beautiful process. And we can take that and apply it to all sorts of things in our lives too. And we know we can because you can do it with art, you can do it with life. I mean, you can do all kinds of
Yeah.
things.
Well, thank you so much, Brie, for coming on here. I really, really appreciate it. It's been a wonderful experience. I think we've covered a whole lot about
We
creativity.
have.
Um, so how can people work with you or find you?
So, my name's Brie Stockwell, but my website is creativemindscoach.com. You can also find me on Instagram or probably anywhere else at Creative Minds Coach. And you'll find if you go to Instagram, you can click on that and find all the things, or you can go on my website and you can see how to work with me. And I will tell you one thing. One of the things that I have found as a creative is that sometimes it's just difficult to get motivated. And so I send out weekly emails that help you dig into getting motivated, getting more motivation. And when you sign up for my email list, I have a little mini guide that's mobile friendly that has 10 of my favorite tips for getting motivated, for creative motivation, or just any kind of motivation,
Mhm.
truthfully. So I'll send you the link for that. But if you go to
Yeah.
creativemindscoach.com and scroll all the way to the bottom of my homepage, you can just click on that right there. So there we go.
Awesome. Well, thank you so much again.
Thank you, Leslie.